We are here at SOE Live in Las Vegas. We are with Todd Carson, senior producer for Dragon's Prophet. Now, the last time we didn't speak with exactly you, but we saw you at E3. There's been a lot that has changed since E3. Yeah. Notably, just this weekend, you announced the launch date. So let's start with that. Launch date for Dragon's Prophet.
September 18th of this year, we're going to be launching Dragon's Prophet. So it's going to be very awesome.
That's pretty soon. So what are some of the other things? Now, there was the Wintertide was... We talked a lot about Wintertide at E3, so tell us a little bit about Wintertide and the new zone that's going to be coming out.
Okay, yeah, so Wintertide took players, a lot of players to go from level 60 to 70. It introduced a whole new area with a lot of lore in it because it was where the second Dragon War took place. It's now been taken over by giants and trolls. It's, obviously, a lot of snow on the ground. Wintertide, winter is here. Winter was coming, but now it's here. And then there's 4 new dungeons there with some really cool boss mechanics. We've changed some of the features of the way dungeons work. So there's now, when you enter a dungeon, there's automatically a quest on your character, and then to progress through the dungeon, you have to complete those quests. So we've kind of really made it more of a role-playing experience for the players, a little more fun, make it more engaging to them. We introduced a Dragon Chamber, which is something that players have been asking for since we went into closed beta, 6-7 months ago. And you are now able to collect 108 different dragons in the game, whereas before it was just 12. So we've had 96 new places to add dragons, so it's really cool.
You kind of mentioned with being able to collect so many dragons at one time, it brings a little bit of that like Pokemon element because people love to collect things. So obviously it makes sense to collect dragons. And you're going to add achievements that go along with that, correct?
Yeah, that's what Runemaker's the developer on the project out in Taiwan, and we've talked to them about like, hey, not only do we want to have a place to put all these dragons, but we want to visually see like, hey, what species of dragons have we collected? What's next on our goal? What's next on our list? Because when you have that many dragons, it's hard to keep track of them all. So yeah, that's what's coming up. Sorry.
And people do like to brag. It's human nature. Yeah. So is there going to be in terms of the achievements? Will people be able to see like when you click on somebody? Oh, they've collected 100 dragons. They've collected ones from all these different species. Like, is that something other players can see?
I don't know yet. I haven't seen the achievement in work. Runemaker's working on it right now. That would be cool. I'm not sure though.
Well, tell them I said it's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's half the reason why you do things like this. Like, you want to do it for yourself, but you also want to show all your friends how cool you are.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have Wintertide, and now you're announcing Inertia, right? Is that how we say it? Inertia. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that zone.
Okay, so that zone is actually connected to Wintertide. They're part of the same island, but right now it's kind of barred off from the players. So it's also a snowy area until you get to the top. Then there's this old flame dragon that evidently he's created such fire underneath the mountain that it's kind of melted the snow around there. We'll allow players to go from level 70 to 80. So we're kind of giving them a 2-month span for our existing beta users. They'll be able to increase their level cap and more dungeons, really cool stuff. We're actually going to also be reintroducing survival mode. So some of our epic dungeons, we currently have only 3 difficulty levels. We used to have 4. It wasn't working the way we wanted, so Runemaker's making some changes to it. And survival mode is just what it says. It's another way to play an instance dungeon. You can't die, or you get booted out and you got to start over. But it's a great little challenge, a reason to come back and try to do it again. And of course, you can play by yourself or with a group.
So that's like the hardest difficulty.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, it is. Yeah, it's at the hardest difficulty, and you can't die.
So when you do die in that, you just start back from the beginning, or is all the mobs respawn?
The dungeon starts over again. Yeah.
But there's probably good loot at the end, right?
Of course, good loot. And then a couple of the other things we're doing. The key feature that we've been really waiting for to announce launch is the end game content. We call it the Frontier system. So the Frontier is where our floating islands are right now. So players can get there. That's where the open housing lots are. So players from all servers can come there, meet up, buy a housing lot, place a house there. They can PvP each other right now, but there's not a lot to do up there. On each island, there's also a little citadel. It looks like an empty castle right now, basically. That's going to be populated with NPCs, with catapults, and guilds can form alliances right now. So 2 guilds get together, they form an alliance. They can actually level up that alliance, break the alliance, but alliances will be able to go in. You'll probably need an alliance. You'll need more than just a full guild to go in and capture these citadels. And then you will be the overlord of that frontier, of that floating island. That guild will be, or that alliance. Other alliances will then want to come, and once we get enough alliances out there versus the number of islands, they're going to be fighting for those overlord citadels, because once you're owning the citadel, you're actually the overlord of that island. You control tax rate, so there's a lot of political things that'll be involved with it too.
Are there any other benefits besides like a higher tax rate? Do you get, if you are owning the island, do your guys get like more health or any other benefits like that?
No, but what you can do is it's really just a pride thing. Like, hey, this is our island, right? But you can't. They'll be able to go out in the world and collect different things from the world and come back and combine them and actually create NPCs to help guard the citadel, right? Because I mean, even if there's 2 guilds, you're not going to have people on all the time. You're going to want some help. So we're going to allow them to create NPCs and do different things to set up defenses for the citadel. So.
And there's more than one island, right?
Oh yeah, right now we currently have 14 islands up. That might change at launch. We might actually reduce it a little bit depending on if they're all populated with houses, or I imagine soon that we're going to have to add more once we go to launch. So.
Is that 14 islands per server?
No, so it's cross-server. So no matter what server you're on, when you go to the floating islands, everyone's together. So like when you create a character in Dragon's Prophet, you're creating a unique name. That's the only, like when you create, my name's Tanthor in game. Nobody else can be Tanthor on any of the servers because we all go to the floating islands together.
Perfect. And was there anything else that we can expect from Dragon's Prophet before the release next month?
Yeah, we're going to do an update towards the end of August, and we're going to have a few changes. We're looking at changing some of the attributes. Right now, players are putting a lot of points into Charisma, because the more points you have in Charisma, the more time you have when you're capturing a dragon. And some of the ancient dragons are really hard to capture, and you need a lot of time. Yeah, yeah. And so what we're doing is we're actually taking, Charisma is no longer modify the time to capture a dragon. We're actually putting other stats into it, and they'll find a lot of those stats, a lot of the items with those stats out in the world. You'll find gems, and so it's still in the works right now, but so Charisma will only be affecting how long your dragon can be summoned. So trying to allow players to spend points in other things, like strength and intelligence and ferocity and focus and that kind of stuff.
So just a bunch of little small changes that you're kind of working through, a bunch of things before release.
Right. It's going to be some small changes, and then we've got a lot of the big content coming for release, and we're actually also got a plan for a post-release. Rune Waker is really good. They did a really good job with Runes of Magic and continuing content, even now, years later. And so I'm actually going out to Taiwan next week to talk with them and with the European partners in Fernum. And we're gonna, one of the things we're gonna bring up is what's the plan post-launch. We want players to know, like, hey, there's going to be continuous new content.
So kind of like the other SOE products like PlanetSide 2, they have the roadmap, so players can see what's coming and be excited about that.
Yep, absolutely. I don't know if we'll have an actual roadmap that we show, but yeah, I mean, we take feedback from our players all the time. What do you like? What don't you like? I mean, that's why we're in open beta still. But even when we go to launch, we pay attention to the forums. We pay attention to our Facebook and all that places where players give us feedback. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Todd. We look forward to seeing Dragon's Prophet next month.
Great.
Right, thank you.
Go to dragonsprofitthegame.com. You can play right now for free.
dragonsprofitthegame.com. Thank you.